Hello there everyone. So today I'm going to go through my Kumihimo essentials. So the tools and also some materials that I find are the best ones to start out with, and also the ones that I still use to this day pretty much every single time I make a Kumihimo project. So I hope you enjoy. And then what I'm also just going to do as well is the tools and the materials that I'm going to go through in this video. I'm going to put links to them in the description box below to where you could buy them. So obviously you can either go there and buy them, or you can just go and have a closer look at them as well. So the first tools here that are the most essentials, whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, that we really need to make any Kumihimo pieces, are the discs themselves. So these are the foam discs, and we have a round one and then a square one, as you can see. They both make different things, so I would recommend, if you can, having both of them, because you can make things on the square one that you can't do on the round, and the other way around as well. Now if you do have to choose one of them, I would say go for the round one if you have to choose between the two, because that is the most versatile, I find personally. But they are really so inexpensive that I would recommend just having both of them. And also, because they are made of this foam, eventually as you use it, the slots here will expand a little bit and become less tight, and that will affect the braid as well, the structure of the braid. So every now and then you would have to get a new one to kind of get the new tightness in a new disc there to help the tension on your braid. But they are so inexpensive, so I really don't think it's that big of a deal. So these are the two main pieces, obviously, to make any Kumihimo braids. So aside from the discs themselves, because obviously they are the most essential tool, because you can't really do Kumihimo without them, the next two things I'm going to show you are more optional extras, and you can also have other things in place of them. They're just really handy to have. And the first ones of those are some Kumihimo weights, and these are the ones that I have here. So I've got two different, because they're actually two different sizes. You've got one here that's 45 grams. It looks like that. And then we have one here that's a bigger one, and this is actually 90 grams. Now, like I said, these ones aren't necessarily essential to have, but again, they're really nice to have as an extra, because sometimes you do need this extra weight, and this is to add below your disc, so onto the end of the braid that you're then creating, because it helps sometimes with the tension. I find for a lot of braids they're not necessary, but I also do find for some braids they are really helpful. So as you can see here, that one is quite bigger, and it's also heavier. So really the size of them will then also depend on the braid itself. Sometimes you might need a heavier one, and sometimes you might need the lighter one. You can see here as well, these ones have hooks on the end, so I find that really handy. You can also get them without hooks. It really all depends what you want, but this just means that you hook these teeth onto the end of the braid. It holds really well as well, by the way. It's really strong, and then you can either just use the weight, but then the hook you can use to then add on more weight if you need to as well. So they're really handy with that, or depending what braid you have, you can use the hook itself to attach onto the braid. It really all depends. I've done that as well. But like I said, these are the weights. They're not essential because, like I said, a lot of braids don't really need the weights, and also you can make your own weights as well. You don't have to have specific Kumihimo weights. You can easily, say, make a bag of some little stones or some coins and put them on the end of the braid and just attach them somehow. So you don't have to have these specifically. They're just really handy, and again, not that expensive either. So then the next ones here are not crucial to have again, but they are really handy for certain projects, and these are the Kumihimo Bobbins. They look like this. I just have 4 here to show you as examples. So this is what it looks like. So it's really handy for, you can use it for any project really, but especially if you're making, say, something like a necklace where you have really long lengths of cord, or maybe even beads on them as well. These make that a lot easier than to work with, because you can imagine having long lengths, it's going to tangle up really easily and get really difficult to work with. So what these are is you open it up like this. It's just a plastic or rubber they're made of, so they're quite nice and soft. And what you do is you strand, you kind of hold on to that inside. You can also put some tape or whatever you want to keep the end of the cord in there. I like to have it sticking out so I can unravel it as I go. But then you then wrap the cord around, and also, say if you're using beads, you can also put beads inside of here to only have a few beads to work with at a time. That's what I tend to do as well. And then once you're happy with it, you have only a certain length to work with that's manageable. You close it back up, and then you do that on all the lengths of cord, with or without beads. And then you have these hanging down from the disc, and then you have a certain length of the cord, with or without beads, to work with, and it makes it so much easier to handle, instead of having long lengths of cord that's going to get tangled up. Like I said, they're not crucial to have, and you don't really need them for every project. I just find for certain projects they are really nice, especially for working with something like necklaces. The next thing I just want to talk about is the materials that you use for the actual braid itself. And you can really use whatever cord that you either have at hand or whatever cord that you fancy using. There is no specific cord that you have to use for Kumihimo that's right or wrong. It is literally anything that you can find or that you have at hand. The only thing I will say, so that's for non-beaded Kumihimo I would say, but for beaded Kumihimo, this is my favourite one here. Again, it's not specific that you have to use this, you can use whatever you prefer. My personal preference when I do beaded Kumihimo is the 0.4mm Eslon. So this is what I like to use, or Ceylon, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. But the reason for that is because Eslon or Ceylon is really strong, so it makes the braid itself and the structure really strong and durable over time. And also because you have so many cords going on, that's going to add to the strength as well. But also because of the thickness here, because it's quite a fine cord, so even though it's so strong, it's still really fine. And this I found actually so far has gone through pretty much all beads that I've used for Kumihimo. So it'll go through far most beads that you want to use for the Kumihimo anyway. So I just find this really good, and also it comes in a wide array of colours, so you can match your cord up with the beads as well. So the next ones here are also not essentials. I just personally really prefer using these. So once you've made your braid, you obviously need something to kind of finish them off if you want to turn them into, say, a bracelet or a necklace. So what I tend to use are these ones here. So these are just some examples. I have 2 Kumihimo ends, these kind of bell-shaped Kumihimo ends, 2 different sizes, and then I have 2 examples also of ribbon ends here. So the bell ends, Kumihimo ends there, I use these for the round braids. So to finish them off nicely, you just put glue in there, and then make sure it's a nice and strong glue, and it gives a really nice and professional finish, I find. And obviously they have a little loop at the top that you can then use to attach with a clasp if you want to. And then these ones I then use mostly for the flat braids, or if I have multiple round braids in some kind of design next to each other, I also sometimes would use these. Again, these have different sizes, so different widths depending on the size of your braid as well. So the size of these all depends on the braid that you've made and the materials that you used. So these are just the ones that I've got as examples. I just really like to use these because they give a nice professional finish, but you can obviously use whatever you want to as well. And then the final thing that I just want to briefly mention is the glue for your Kumihimo braids. So if you use the ribbon ends or the Kumihimo ends that I just showed you, you'll need some kind of glue, and for this myself I prefer to use the E6000. The reason for that is it dries clear and it's also really strong, it's industrial strength. So you obviously want to make sure that whatever glue you're using, you can use whatever you want to, but just make sure whatever glue you are using is strong, because obviously we're just putting the ends onto the very end of the braid. And if it's not strong enough, it'll just pull back out, or at least it won't last very long. So just make sure it's a strong glue, then you can use whatever you want to. But this is my preferred one. I also have a video about my favourite glue, so you can have a look at that one if you need to. But those were my Kumihimo essentials. So I really hope you enjoyed this and found it useful as well. And thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to do a basic beaded Kumihimo braid, using round beads in this case. And this is what it looks like. So this is just the example that I'll be showing you in the video, but it's more to show you the technique of how to add beads to a Kumihimo braid, because you can use many different sizes and types of beads. So if you want to learn how to do that, then stay tuned. And these are the things that you'll need.